Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives inside the ring as well as outside of the ring. And, of course, doing charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positivity here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He's worked for numerous different companies, worked for the NWA. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only Chief Jay Eagle. Welcome,
Thank
Jay,
you,
to
guys.
Wrestling with Heart.
Glad to be here. Glad for having me on.
Yes, it's my pleasure. So tell me about your childhood. Where are you from?
Well, I grew up around Greenville, South Carolina, Fountain Inn area, and moved to Spartanburg as a elementary school kid, and growed up here and had a good childhood. I had horses and growing up, and a good dad and mom, and a little brother I could beat up, so I had everything I needed.
So like the countryside, live on a farm or grew up near a
Well,
farm?
yeah, that's what my dad did. He raised produce and sold them at the market, and so it was something I could never get away from.
All right, okay.
But I always had, like I say, we had horses and cows, and so I always enjoyed that lifestyle.
Sure. Yeah, I bet it was very hot in the summertime.
Oh yes, absolutely.
All right, okay. Was wrestling something you enjoyed watching as a kid?
No, not that I remember a whole lot. I remember my mom and dad going to the Greenville Auditorium when I was a kid, and she seen Gorgeous George, and he gave her a gold hairpin. And other than my grandparents, being farmers, would go in on Saturday at noon so we could catch the local wrestling. And that's my two earliest memories of wrestling. I never had no idea I'd ever get into it. My dream was to have me a race car, but I got tied up with Wahoo McDaniel and Sweet Handsome, and I never looked back.
Wow, race car driving. Who would have
That's
thought?
what I. That's what I thought. If I make it to the end of this year, I'll be in the wrestling business 50 years. Actually, been in the ring for 50 years, and
What can you tell me about the first time you met Wahoo McDaniel?
well, Wahoo was in a hunting club with my dad, and they called themselves hunting buddies, but they were really drinking buddies. But anyway, I met Wahoo. He invited me to go on the road and drive for him, and that way he could sit over and drink his beer. And so I did that. I enjoyed it, and then actually went to a show one night, and somebody didn't show, and he throwed me in. So I've been doing it ever since. That was 1975.
I bet that had to have been nerve-wracking, your first show, you're there. I mean, tell me about like the training process. Were you trained or was this just something
Not,
that you
not,
just
well, I went to where the guys worked out and worked out with a couple of them, but I was never really trained by anybody. They just, I know this is hard to believe, but I was just a natural at it. My grandparents owned an old house that they rented out, and they had it full of mattresses. Well, me and the cousins went in and spread the mattresses out, and we wrestled all over the house, backdrops, body slams. We didn't know what we was doing or that we'd ever do it later on, but it actually helped me a lot when I went to the local gym and seen some independent wrestling, and then I met Wahoo, and I was gone then.
were there any like pieces of advice that you got from Wahoo that you remember to this day that still stick with you?
I remember I went and wrestled for Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I had told them I was Jay Eagle, and Wahoo had told Gordon Soley to call me Denny Wolf. He didn't want me to do jobs in Georgia as Jay Eagle, which that was fine. I had a good time. First show I ever worked in Georgia was with Andre the Giant and the Freebirds and Jimmy Snuka and the Masked Superstar. So I was out of my league there. I was actually sitting in the dressing room with guys I growed up watching. So the biggest thing Jimmy Snuka got me for when I was in the ring wrestling, he tied my tennis shoes in about 100 knots and got a big life out of that. But other than that, everything went smooth. And uh, one time I come in and Andre had an afro then, and he had my headdress sitting on top of his hair.
Hmm.
And they got a life out of it. But I started to whoop him, but I didn't. I just let him go.
Who came up with the name Chief J Eagle?
Uh, well, my dad is from Cherokee, North Carolina, and we've got relatives that are the jumpers and the longs, and but two or three of them been the chief, and my dad was in line to do it, and just wrestling as an Indian, people basically just stuck the name on me, and
Hmm.
my real name's Jerry, so I was gonna wrestle as Jerry Eagle, but I went and wrestled for the Macho Man and Angelo Poffo, and they started putting me down as J Eagle in the magazine, so I just stuck with that from on. But yeah, the chief name kind of stuck with me, and I had a good friend. He was a chief of police in the local town, and he gave me some pin-ons that had chief on them, and I had them pinned on my coat, so it kind of uh growed out of that right there.
Oh, okay. That's pretty neat, to have that. And so you mentioned you're still wrestling to this day, 50 plus year career. Tell me about some of your favorite opponents that you've been able to share the ring with. You had mentioned Andre the Giant, you'd mentioned Jimmy Snuka, but who are some of the other people that you got to really enjoy being with?
Oh, brother, you wouldn't believe. Macho Man, I lived with him for a few years, and Tracy Smothers, Wahoo, Ivan Koloff, the Masked Superstar. I did a couple of programs with Jimmy Garvin, and Lord, I can't remember all of them. The first famous wrestler I ever wrestled was Brute Bernard. I don't know if you remember him or not. And I still copy him sometimes the way he walked around the ring doing a hey, 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 hey. I still copy that and people think I'm crazy. But man, there's so many. I've wrestled both rock and roll boys and I've wrestled both Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy, and man, they've been so many that I could probably sit here and go through my some of my matches and tell you people I'm not telling you now, but it was a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you had mentioned just a second ago Macho Man Randy Savage. What was it like being with him?
Well, to tell you the truth, a wrestler that wrestled for him named Danny Doyle had called me and said he had talked to Randy about me, and Randy wanted me to come in and bring him some guys to work on TV. Well, I owned American Pro Wrestling at the time, which I started it back in well, actually, I started running shows right around 75 because as soon as I started promoting. But anyway, I carried a group of guys up and met Randy, and he met the guys and thanked all of them for coming. And I told him about a friend of mine, the guy that worked with me was One Man Gang. And I told him that he was 18 years old, he was 6'8", and he could do a drop kick. And he weighed 450 pounds. And Randy asked me to bring him up. So I carried him up my next trip to Kentucky, and he never came home again. He's in Shreveport now, but he's always stayed out in Louisiana because that's where he met his wife.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean Macho Man Randy Savage, just a legend in the business. It's,
Oh, I was amazed when he called me, but now he wasn't a big name when he called me. He was just an independent wrestler out of Lexington, Kentucky. Him and Lanny and Pez Watley was there, and Jimmy Garvin and Ronnie Garvin, and Lord, I can't even think all of them. Bob Root. Uh, anyway, uh, he done so good they just kept him.
Yeah, I
And,
mean,
and then later on, Ernie Ladd come in, prospect him, and hired him, and carried him back to Texas with him. So that's how he left ICW, which was in Kentucky.
the cool thing about wrestling is you meet all these people, you're going on the road, you're traveling together. The camaraderie is just an important part, I feel like, of the pro wrestling business. Any fun stories you want to share about being on the road?
Well, I do want to tell you about my mom and dad. First match I carried them to. My
Hmm.
mom was a character. She was one of those people that told you like it was. She didn't care whose feelings she hurt. But first time I carried them to the show, me and my partner, and his name was Don Gilbert, we was wrestling a tag team called the Bandits. They was two masked guys that looked just alike, and they could switch in and out. If you didn't see them do it, you didn't know they done it. So here I am in the ring trying to fight both of them. My partner's laying out on the floor, and out of the blue, all at once, I noticed my mom's in the ring standing over me. I said, "Mama, get the hell out of here." And she said, "You get the hell out of here." So the wrestlers got a big kick out of that. For years, they'd say, "Well, I'm not going to wrestle Eagle because his mama might be with him." So I had to live that over. That's just a very, very early road story. But yeah, I had quite a few X-rated stories that I'm not going to get into. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's been amazing traveling with four guys for weeks at a time and splitting motel rooms and eating in the anywhere we could get food, like a buffet. We was just a turd when we went in them places, but yeah, it was okay. I might. Some of my worst trips was wrestling in Memphis and then going to Johnson City. That's all the way across the state of Tennessee. So you work at a show at night, get in your car and head out. You just about drive till the time for the next show. So you know,
That
they
grind.
think, yeah, they things that I sit and think about now that I can't. So many guys tell me, you know me, I wrestled for you, but thousands of guys wrestled for me. I can't unless something special happened or they was somebody that caught my eye. I mean, it's just like Ron Killens. I knew when he come in and talked to me that he was going to be good. He said, "Chief, I got in a little trouble with the law, and the judge told me to find me a hobby, or he's gonna put me in jail. You think I could be a wrestler?" I said, "Yeah," because I knew he was an athlete. I'd seen him dance and do splits and stuff. So
Hmm.
I stuck him with Chris Hamrick, and it wasn't long they was working the roads together.
And look at him now, still
Yeah.
going strong in the WWE as R-Truth, and he got a start in the Carolinas.
Oh, brother, he was a clown too. We what I had him doing was dancing all the way to the ring, and then one of the guys that wrestled as Cougar Jay,
Hmm.
he had changed his name to Southern Stone, so I put them together, and then both of them would dance to the ring, and it was something that helped get APW over back in the early days when I had local TV.
Yeah. We uh we had Dion Moore on, Cougar J on. So yeah,
Yeah, that's him.
we talked about that. Yeah, it's incredible. You just never know where people get their start and to see how they just take
Oh,
off.
oh, I love the guy. We hit it right off. Me and my wife, and him and his wife. Our wives was our announcers and the host of the show, and they was both good talkers. And then his health got bad, and he moved to Florida, and I hated it because we was close. But that's what life is.
Hmm. Well, let's switch gears now and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of the ring. I know you've done a lot of charity work and community service. Tell me about some of the stuff you've done to help out in your community.
Well, mostly I've always had horses, and I always involved the community with that. I'd have three or four neighbors that would have horses because I did, and we'd spend a lot of time together. And uh, we'd take the horses to the Bible school at the churches and let the kids ride them. And I've always been a kid man. I tell you, I love the grandbabies. I've got 18 of them,
Mm.
and the two littlest ones, they think they're wrestlers now, and I take them to the shows, and they ain't nothing no better than hearing them over in the corner hollering "Papa, Papa, Papa." So even on my shows that I owned and run, I had dozens of kids call me Papa, and I never knew whose kids they were, but it didn't matter. I loved all of them.
It's got to warm your heart though, when you have young kids come up to you,
Oh
they look up
yeah,
to you as a role model and seeing, a hero that, you're basically, playing that role. So it's got to make you feel good inside.
some kids are proud of Papa, but they don't know how proud I am of them. They'll never know. But at least my son wrestles also. He's Dusty Money, and he's the flying hillbilly now. He's doing a hillbilly gimmick. I don't know how they talked him into that, but it's getting over down here in the Carolinas. So
Yeah.
more power to him. The difference in me and him, I was always an athlete, but he's a little bit of an acrobat too. So he's got to flip in the ring and land on his feet or something I can't do. But other than that, he's learning psychology now how it works, and he's doing a whole lot better.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Well, back to the horses though. Tell me more about what you do as far as like having the horses interact with the kids, because I think that's a pretty incredible story.
Well, we had trails in the neighborhood here, and it was, you take somebody that's never rode a horse and put them on it, and that's one of the biggest things in their world. You can't believe how many people can't sit on a horse without falling off. But it's something really simple. It's just balance and keeping yourself straight up. And yeah, I done some things with the church where we carried the kids through, and uh, around Halloween we'd have a hay ride and have it loaded down with kids, and just a lot of things I done through the years. I even owned a go kart track one time, and all my kids had go karts, and I couldn't believe as a grown man I got me another go kart, but I had to have one 'cause the kids did. But yeah, that was real fun too. The neighbors wasn't crazy about it 'cause them motors buzzing all the time drive them crazy.
I think, it's pretty important for kids to have fun and experience. Well, for all of us, obviously, but especially for young children, to have a childhood and give them something to look forward to every day. And so you're providing something for them. It's
Oh yeah.
very important.
Well, interacting with them. I mean, you making memories. That's what it is with me and the grandbabies. I done raised my boys. My two sons wrestled, like I say. One of them's Dusty Money, and the other was Easy Money. And Easy don't wrestle anymore, but Dusty Money's wide open, and I'm loving having his kids around too.
What is it about giving back to the community that, just is so heartwarming for you?
Well, across from where I live, there's a family church, and they got a brand new big old recreation building. As soon as they built that building, it started running through my mind. I'm gonna have to have wrestling at the church because 2 weeks ago I wrestled George South at a church in North Carolina, and what it was just people that wouldn't come to church. They'll come to wrestling. And so get them in and welcome them, thank them, and all that, and get them to come back. So that's basically what we do. We do those shows for Jesus, cause I figure it this way: George House ain't gonna judge me, but Jesus is. So I just beat him up.
It must feel good, whenever longtime fans have paid their hard-earned money or have gone to see you wrestle, that it brings back all the memories when you see them. It's got to make you feel good.
Well, it makes me feel good when I wrestle for one organization and maybe wear myself out and go to a new one, and people will follow me over to another town or another organization. Now I've got people now that when I wrestle in North Carolina, they'll do the drive just 'cause they don't see me local right now.
Yeah.
See, I did local for 30, 40 years, and then I finally started traveling late in my years. So that's what I've been doing. I went to Bristol, Tennessee not long ago and went up to Hazard, Kentucky. And I mean, I still enjoy that. I go to Ricky Morton's a lot. He's in Chuckey, Tennessee. He's a buddy of mine. And my son wrestles for him, and he's worked Ricky a few times. And I do a lot of Tennessee and not so much Kentucky, but some. But that's really where I worked for Macho Man. I don't really count them years because that was back in 83, 84.
Well, how long do you envision yourself keep going? I mean, you've been doing it a long time.
Till I can't, buddy. Till I can't. I can't imagine not doing it. You let me miss a week or two with not a show, and I'm actually wondering who's running local. I'm lucky, I can get a booking just about anywhere if I call
Hmm.
and talk to them. And I still work for a lot of local independent groups, but a lot of them's groups I've worked for 20, 30 years ago.
Hmm.
There ain't many still running, but there are a few.
Yeah.
A lot of new ones. I don't know all the new guys. The guy that bought American Pro Wrestling from me changed it to Asylum Pro Wrestling, but he's still drawing a lot of the same crowd I did. He just got a younger group of guys than what I had in there.
Well, as long as you have the passion and the desire to keep going, that's what matters. So, I am happy that you still have that passion to do it. So
Well,
keep
I
just
can't imagine not doing it.
yeah.
It was my dream at one time to be able to team with my sons, and I've done that. And I don't know what I got left to undo. I just try to stay busy now. I'm a single man, so weekend comes up, I got to get out of the house. So,
Well, you have grandkids too. You had mentioned
oh yeah,
earlier.
hey, I got 18 grandkids. Now
That's
I
a
got a son that's got 9 kids by 6 women, and he can't pay his child support. Them women pull together and pay it.
Well, you got a big family, so I'd imagine like you have plenty of time. When you're not wrestling, you're seeing the kids, you're seeing the children, you're seeing the family.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, this has been incredible getting the chance to speak with you. I just want to say thank you again. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find more about you if they want to get in touch with you or want to know more about you?
Well, I'm on YouTube. I've got like over 1,000 matches under Chief J Eagle. I've got a Facebook page which is just J Eagle. I don't know who give them all the information, but what is it? Wikipedia? Am I saying that right?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Okay, they got that. Got me all over that stuff. I don't even know where they got, but yeah, I mean, pretty. Some of my wrestling buddies tell me I'm Ric Flair in my area, but I think that just means because everybody knows me.
Well, you're a living legend, so just
I'm just glad to be living.
that's the important thing. Well, thanks again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Great, great. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.